Hi, everybody. Welcome to the City of Knoxville Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm Amy Sherrill. I'm the chair of the BZA, and I'll be conducting today's meeting. Alongside me are the other members of the BZA, and at the tables here on the side of the room are the city staff members. Today's meeting will be conducted in the order of the agenda, and agendas are available at the table near the entrance. Pursuant to BZA's administrative rules, each matter on the agenda will be considered in the following order: staff comments, proponents, opponents, rebuttals, discussion among board members, a motion, a second, discussion among board members, and a vote. Members of the public may address the board, and the following rules apply. Each person may speak once for 5 minutes and shall not have more than one time to speak, except that the chair may allow 2 minutes to the applicant for a rebuttal. When more than one person wants to speak to an issue, each side is limited to 3 speakers with 5 minutes each. The board may ask questions of any speaker and may allow more time or more speakers by a vote. Speakers should limit their remarks to the facts of the case and should avoid repeating comments that have been previously presented to the board. All speakers should come to the podium and speak directly into the microphone. Speakers need to state your name and address for the record. Appeals of the decisions by the BZA are made to the Knoxville City Council. A petition for such an appeal shall be filed with the Plans Review and Building Inspections Department not more than 15 days from the date of BZA's decision. We'll now ask Jeff to call the roll.
Amy Sherrill,
Here.
Brad Salisbury,
Here.
Daniel Odell,
Here.
Kimberly Black,
Here.
and then we have one excused.
No, because we haven't been doing it with, unless there's 3 of us. Okay. All right, so the first item here on our agenda is the November 18th minutes, which we are not able to vote on tonight, so I'll make a motion that we postpone that to the January agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now we're on to old business. The first item here is BZA 250074. Is our applicant with us? Excellent. As you make your way up, we'll have staff comments.
The applicant is requesting 2 variances related to a proposed duplex in an O zoning district. The first request is to decrease the minimum required interior side setback in an O zoning district from 15 feet to 9.6 feet. The second request is to decrease the minimum required interior side setback in an O zoning district from 15 feet to 5.4 feet. The lot is 40 feet in width, and the O zoning district would require 30 feet of interior side setbacks.
Thank you. If you'll start with your name and address for the record.
Cody Vitkus, 4405 Coster Road.
Very good. And will you state your request and hardship, please?
We're looking to reduce the minimum side setbacks on this lot from 15 feet to 9.6, and, well, it'd actually have to be 9.5 and 5.4 to give us some buildable area on that lot.
I will come back to, there's a question I'm going to have on that, but will you tell us your hardship, please?
The hardship is that with the current side setback constraints, where it only leaves you with 10 feet of buildable area, which would basically deem it unbuildable with it being that narrow.
Okay, thank you. And for staff, 9.6 is what was published?
Yes, it was rounded from 9.58 to 9.6.
Okay. And I guess 9.5 would be lesser. I'm like trying to do math, or would that be more of a variance?
With it being 9.58, technically that'd put it 2/200ths over the setback.
So,
We typically just round to the 10th place.
okay, so we're good?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or in opposition to this item? All right, then we'll open up board discussion.
It appears to me that no matter what goes on this lot, a variance would be required of some kind. And I don't personally see any reason not to consider this based on that.
I would tend to agree. It's a 40-foot narrow lot, that this is about what you could do, so.
Any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve variance BZA 25074. The hardship is the lot configuration and size.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Variance has been granted.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to the new business portion of our meeting, and the first item here is BZA 250078. Is our applicant with us? Excellent. As she makes her way up, can we have staff comments?
The applicant is requesting 5 variances related to a proposed attached garage addition in an R2 zoning district. The first request is to decrease the minimum required front setback in an R2 zoning district from 20 feet to 12 feet 7 inches. The second request is to decrease the minimum required rear setback in an R2 zoning district from 25 feet to 20 feet 11 inches. The third request is to decrease the minimum required combined interior side setback in an R2 zoning district from 15 feet to 10 feet 2 inches. The fourth request is to increase the maximum allowed building coverage in an R2 zoning district from 30% to 37%. The fifth request is to increase the maximum allowed impervious surface coverage in an R2 zoning district from 40% to 43%. The property has an atypical front lot line and front setback due to the continuation of Maplewood Drive, abutting both the west and southern property lines. The existing single-family dwelling was permitted and then constructed between 2024 and 2025. The original plans that were approved met the off-street parking requirements with a driveway in the northwest corner of the lot, which can be seen in the photos provided on sheet A002. The intent is to construct a garage addition over this existing driveway. The applicant should address how a garage addition is the minimum adjustment necessary when the property is already in compliance with the minimum off-street parking requirements for a single-family dwelling, and if any alternative plans were considered that would reduce the need for the number of variances requested.
Thank you. Will you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Savannah Reyes-Dixon, 133 South Gay Street.
Thank you. Will you describe your request and hardship?
So Mark kind of covered some of it, but I started working with the client, Ms. Garrison, who's here, and she was really needing a garage on her site. She's planning to age in place in this house, and she wanted somewhere safe to park her car and to access the house that's covered. And so when we started looking into the zoning feasibility of this, a carport wouldn't be allowed, and a detached garage is not allowed in a side setback. And so originally she really wanted a detached garage so that she could keep as much of her backyard space as possible. And but when we started working on it, we talked to Mark, and he was like, absolutely not. You can't even request a variance for it. It can't go in the side yard. So the thing is, though, that this lot is really unique in that it sits at what used to be a corner. So the exhibit that I passed out kind of shows where this house is in relation to the original neighborhood. And in the original neighborhood, it was at the corner of 2 streets and one that actually continued in the other direction. And you can also see this because in the property lines as are on the site, it stops at an angle. It's not a curve. And most sites that are on a curved road where you have those 2 front yards, the 2 front setbacks, you have a curved property line that informs the fact that it's a front setback that continues. So if, on the exhibit I've drawn, if this was considered a corner lot, not only would we be able to do a detached garage, we would comply completely within those, the setbacks would all comply perfectly fine to have a detached garage on a corner lot. But since we have to treat this as a front yard, 2 front yards, we can't practically have it act as that kind of garage, and it has to be attached. So it's a unique layout that creates this hardship, and that is now different from the original layout of the neighborhood. I think that's everything I have to say. So if the owner would like to come up and speak, she's welcome to.
Thank you. I bought this house and it was already built when I bought it. I bought it in April, so I moved into the neighborhood then, and I was really searching for my forever home. My grandchildren lived down the block. I was desperate to get into the neighborhood. I love this neighborhood, and I'm planning to age there. When I bought it, I never realized I had to ask for a variance. I've never asked for a variance for any kind of building in my life, so I had no idea that that was going to be necessary to get a garage. I was just desperate to get into the neighborhood to be close to my daughter and her children. There were no houses that year, the whole year I looked, except for this one. That was the only one that came open. And so I always knew I would need a garage when I bought the house. I thought I'd be able to build it after I got settled, and when I approached them, that's when I found out about the variances and the restrictions. So I was really distressed to hear that. In 10 years, I'll be 70 there, and I think about trying to navigate the ice and the gravel and the weather, and I really would like to have a garage in order to feel safe as I age there. 10 years, 70, 20 years, 80, that's where I'm going to be. I have really wonderful neighbors who have sent in a lot of support. I understand there are neighbors who are still not happy about the fact that all of these houses were built in this space and that it is as dense as it is. I didn't know anything about that and don't have any part of that. But my neighbors have sent in support. One of my neighbors is here to support me today. She lives right next door. The neighbors who live on each side of me have sent in letters of support. The neighbors who live on my street have sent in letters of support, and I'm really hoping that you all will consider these exceptions.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't think you did. Did you say your name and
Oh,
address?
I'm sorry. I'm Mary Garrison, 2003 Maplewood.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition to this item? Okay. Okay. All right.
I don't have what. Do I need to say my name and address?
All right. Yes, if you will, and if you're in favor, just so
Oh,
we
I'm
can-
in favor.
Okay.
My name's Emily Miles. I live at 2007 Maplewood.
Okay.
I live right next door. I don't personally see any issue of why it would be a obstruction to the sidewalk or anything, but.
Okay, thank you.
So far.
Okay, you have something?
I
to
just
add?
want to let you know that we did receive lots of emails in favor and in opposition to this, and they are at the end of the packet for you to review.
Okay. Very good. So can you clarify also, the applicant made note of the two sides are being considered front instead of a front and a corner side? Just clarification on.
Yeah, so the street continues along the boundaries of the lot. And so because that's the street that it's addressed on, it treats it all as a front. A corner side, it would have to have two intersecting streets. And since it's one continuation of a street, that's why it's a front.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Definitely open up to discussion. I'm thumbing through these to make sure I understand what the messages said, but we don't have to wait if other people have things to say. What part of this is existing and what part of it is new?
What part of the whole lot is existing?
The project.
Is
So
there a
you're
house on
here-
the lot?
There is a current house on the lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just asked to help with just the garage.
Okay, so when we look at the building coverage and the impervious, was it already out of compliance and just getting more out of compliance, or?
No, it was in compliance when the house was constructed. It was pretty much right at the limit. And then with the garage addition, everything has jumped up.
Okay, thank you.
So was the alternative of a single-car garage looked at?
Yes, and the client proposed 2-car.
Would a single car put it in compliance?
May not put it in compliance, but it reduces
Would
the
be closer,
hardships.
yeah.
And it might put it in compliance with coverage.
So I will say that we didn't review for a single car, but if there was a single car, they would have to then have 1 car outside in order to meet the minimum requirements of 2. And because of the sidewalk, I don't know
I think
how
it
that
would
would
end
work
up,
out.
yeah, it would end up probably
But
increasing just
we didn't review
because.
that.
Yeah, we talked about it, sorry, in office. They did not review a version with 1-car garage.
I don't think there's depth to. I don't think there's depth in the driveway to do it. Thought that was a roof. Thoughts, comments, questions from the board?
I'm debating hardship in my mind, as I'm sitting here looking at this. It's a smaller lot in an older neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's a little bit where I'm struggling, is it's a smaller lot in an old neighborhood, but it's new construction too, so it. Is it a hardship that was created by the new construction or not?
And the front door faces the maple wood, right?
It faces.
It's all named Maplewood.
Maplewood, yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
The whole thing's named Maplewood, I think.
Yeah, that's it's
Yes.
part of the confusion.
Well, okay, well, it used to be Chapman and then,
Yeah, but it faces Maplewood.
okay,
The long side.
the long side.
Which actually sort of works against your argument of the corner side, because your front door is facing that, but that's a different story.
If I could
Yeah, sure, just
also,
name and address, please.
Logan
Thanks.
Higgins, 133 South Gay Street. One thing that I wanted to add specifically with the existing neighborhood and the shape of the lot being the intersecting, that's a good point with the front door being on that side. I think that typically the shorter side is considered the front, with the neighborhood pattern here. But I think it was mentioned, is it a kind of a created hardship? The house is certainly not an excessively large house, but part of the emphasis on the detached garage scenario, which if this were still a corner lot like it had been, detached garage wouldn't be within the setbacks as this is. And so that's part of the what we feel like is kind of the hardship here, is that original layout of the neighborhood, this would have been okay. But because at some point, we don't really know when, those two streets became one, now we're dealing with two straight front setbacks. So just wanted to add that.
And I think that's where my mind was headed. That makes sense to me. I think the old layout of the neighborhood, in my mind, is a bit of an effective argument here, because the intent of that lot, I would think from a layout, would have been for that front door to face what used to be Chapman Place, according to this map. And if that's the case, does that create enough of a hardship to think about that garage as the back of the house, even though the new design put the front door that direction.
Are there any issues engineering wise with putting a garage as close to the corner, sight distance, or?
The only concern would be their parking not in the garage, and how that could overhang the sidewalk, but with it being a two-car garage and then required two spaces, that wouldn't be a concern.
I always struggle with hardship when there's, the lot is being used. We're talking about a garage, and where does a garage fall in terms of reasonable use of land when this isn't a first build, it's adding on, so
Yeah.
it's a tricky.
You can make an argument they picked the front door, and that by doing so, they picked the front of the house when they designed it, and I think I understand that thought process as well. And from that standpoint, nobody in the neighborhood wants their garage, the design of the neighborhood generally is not to put garages facing the front of the house. But I think the street layout itself, their argument about that makes sense to me as well. The intent of that lot was to face the other direction, even though, because there is no house design built on it, it faces the direction it does today.
These have also been made shallower at some point with the addition of that lot. That they're not as deep as the.
I think you're right about that. This map doesn't show that as a separated lot.
Yeah, no, it's like two lots that
Yeah.
were separated at some point.
Yeah, they just replatted that corner.
Yeah.
So the narrowness in that, like not being as deep as the other. More discussion, motions, anyone?
I'll make a motion that we approve BZA 25078 with a hardship of a irregularly shaped lot, creating a wide variety of setback issues. And
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. All right, the variance has been approved 3-1. Thank you. Okay, next item on here is BZA 250079. Is our applicant with us today? Excellent. As he makes his way up, can we have staff comments, please?
The applicant is requesting two variances related to an existing but never permitted storage yard outdoor in a CH2 zoning district. The first request is to decrease the minimum required width of a Class B buffer yard around an outdoor storage yard in a CH2 zoning district along the northern property lines labeled as lines A, B, B, C, and C, D from 20 feet to 5 feet. The second request is to decrease the minimum required height of a solid wall or fence for an outdoor storage yard in a CH2 zoning district around the southern and western property lines labeled XY and YZ from 6 feet to 0 feet. The property butts a vacant lot to the south, a salon and single-family dwelling to the north, and an irregularly shaped vacant parcel to the west. The property also has a significant flood zone area that covers the majority of the property behind the existing improvements, which can be seen on the KGIS aerial. There is also a small creek that runs through the property directly behind the existing improvements. The applicant has suggested that they have no plans to expand the area of the storage yard beyond the existing boundaries due to the location of the creek and other wet weather conveyances that exist on the property. Based on these conditions, the zoning administrator has agreed to interpret the boundaries of the storage yard to end at the creek to the west as long as no development occurs beyond that creek. If development occurs beyond the shown boundaries on the site plan included in the variance application, the requested variances in the zoning administrator's interpretation would be revoked. The applicant is proposing a 5-foot buffer yard and 8-foot tall fence along the northern boundaries of the lot to screen the storage yard from the abutting neighboring properties. The applicant is not proposing any new landscaping or fencing to the west and suggests that the existing vegetation provides adequate screening. The applicant is proposing a Class B buffer yard to the south, but is not proposing a solid wall or fence, as they suggest the landscaping will provide adequate screening to the vacant parcel it abuts. The applicant has provided additional photos of the property from different angles in the application.
Thank you. Will you state your name and address for the record?
It's Brandon Bolding, 6907 Central Avenue Pike.
Thank you. And describe, we've gotten a little bit of a summary, but in your words, your request and hardship.
So, as stated, we've got a landscape company located at this facility. We have the need for an additional warehouse space or warehouse building, which is what we're trying to get permitted for. And we have limited space to where if we did a 20-foot buffer on both sides, we would lose 40 foot of space for the use of our lot. We have natural vegetation around the lot, as well as the means to do some landscaping and plan on doing that, but as well as the 30-foot buffer and the flood zone that's behind us. It just seems pointless to get into that and disturb that area of the creek to use that for a buffer all the way around. So we've met on this before. I appreciate your all's time again. I've tried to really depict the area that we're going to be disturbing, which is the red line around that you can, I think, note that says area of disturbance, or can't remember exactly how it's noted, but it's the dotted line that goes around that building. That's the only area that would be possibly even disturbed. It's the footprint of the warehouse building right by your cursor there that shows where that will be constructed, but nothing further than that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition to this item? Okay, we have someone here to speak. If you'll step aside and let her come up.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Feld, and I live at 1540 Aguila Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919, and I'm here today as president of Scenic Knoxville. So the application states that they're seeking 2 variances. The way I read it, they're actually seeking 4 variances. 3 of the variances pertain to a required 20-foot landscape buffer on 3 sides of the property, the north, the west, and the south, and 1 pertains to a required 6-foot wall on the northern, southern, and western property lines. I'm going to focus my remarks here today on the 3 variances that pertain to the required 20-foot landscape buffer. When explaining the purpose of a landscape buffer, Article 12 states, landscape screening reduces the impact of intense development upon adjacent land uses by providing visual separation, reducing the transmission of glare and air pollution, and limiting access. Screening also promotes the aesthetic appeal of a neighborhood and promotes higher property values. So that's why we want landscape buffers. While some of the adjacent lots are currently undeveloped, no one can predict what kind of development might occur on these parcels in the future, and screening is still required to provide an adequate buffer between the applicant's property and current and future development. For example, if a residential development is built on one of the adjoining properties that's currently vacant, no one can go back and ask the owner of this property to install an appropriate buffer. So it has to be done now. The applicant references existing vegetation on the west and south property lines. If the existing vegetation is considered adequate by the zoning administrator, I suspect some of it could be incorporated into the required 20-foot buffer. Alternatively, the applicant could apply for an alternative landscape design as described in Article 12.2.b, which might allow them to meet the requirements of Article 12 by using some or all of the existing vegetation. It's important to have a landscape buffer that has been approved by plans review and inspections, because an approved buffer triggers requirements for maintaining the health of all the vegetation and for replacing any vegetation in the buffer that dies. Just stating that the existing vegetation will suffice does not trigger these conditions. Also, unless the existing vegetation is part of an approved landscape plan, it could all be cut down at any time without consequences. This applicant does not have any legal hardships as specified by the ordinance that justifies not complying with the buffer yard requirements of Article 12. Strict application of the ordinance would not deprive the owner of reasonable use of the property. The applicant will not be prevented from using the property as the zoning ordinance intended. He will still be able to use the property as an outdoor storage yard for his landscaping business. The ordinance also states that mere loss in value shall not justify a variance. There must actually be a deprivation of beneficial use of land. So Scenic Knoxville asks that you deny these variances. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others here to speak in favor or opposition? Okay, and do you have anything you'd like to sort of respond to before we open to discussion?
So it's not that we're not doing landscaping to create a buffer around the property. We are doing that and have revised that with a plan that would show adequate screening for the purpose of the areas that are visible from the street. It's the width that we're trying to get a variance for. So I agree that landscaping and a buffer around a property is viable and it's needed. It's the width in which it's taking up for the purpose of the use of our property that I'm asking for the variance on.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Well, let's open that up to board discussion. How long has the storage yard, I guess, how long has this been in place?
We purchased the property in 17, had it rezoned commercial according to what we were told the proper commercial zoning, and then have rezoned it again to meet the current standards of what the use of the property is. So 17 is when we purchased the property.
Okay.
It's been a process to obtain the full use of the property the way our goal was intended, but since 17.
Yeah, and that's, I think you had, as you mentioned, you were here previously, so
Yeah.
just kind of understanding the context of how long the site has looked like this, right? And there's been several zoning changes and other things that somewhat changed the rules.
Right.
And I very much appreciate the labeling of things, so it was easier to
Navigate.
understand the
Yeah.
scope of what was being requested, because it is a very big parcel. Your neighbors to the north, are they aware? I mean, they get letters, I know that, but have you had a discussion with them? Are they?
Yes, they're very open to whatever we need to do and haven't created any opposition at all for that.
So I think what I'm understanding is that the buffer would require a fence and landscape? The buffer would require the fence and 20 feet?
Correct.
Okay. So it looks like on one side, we're getting the fence with a smaller buffer, and the other side, the full 20-foot. Did I interpret that correctly?
I believe that's the way we interpreted it.
Okay.
So we are getting the fence on both sides?
Just the
Correct.
north? No, the north.
Just the north? Okay.
Yeah, so the north side with the 5-foot, so fence, yes, smaller buffer. South side, no fence, full buffer.
Just so I'm clear, does the approval of an alternate landscape plan, is that a possibility to, as opposed to a variance?
So, an alternative landscape design, you can change the planning requirements and you can move things around, but you can't decrease the width of a buffer. And then the ALD has nothing to do with the fence. That is a principal use standard.
Okay.
So he can still go through an ALD to move items around and planning materials, but he can't reduce the buffer width.
Okay.
So what's the use of that increased width inside of the lot that you're aiming to obtain? I think I understand the buffers at this point, but you're asking for this because of use for the interior width, you said, I think, right? Did I interpret that right? Did I hear that right?
We're not asking for increased use of the interior width. We just want to maintain as what we have as much as possible. We don't, if we put 20 feet inside, then it's going to reduce that even more as far as, mainly up against where the bins are, where we've gone to the 5 feet. That would be the main reason. I think we've tried to obtain it on the other areas. But it's mainly in that other corner where the storage bins are and things of that nature that would really get into our lot space.
But so the lot space now is used every day, are you turning around in it? What's the use that's gonna be? I understand the storage bins on the north side, but for the rest of the space, what would be limited in your day-to-day operations of the?
So we have fleet trucks, so loading up crew trucks with materials, operation of machinery around and through the parking lot to have enough room to do that. Loading and unloading equipment or materials, employee parking, things of that nature. Just have an adequate, safe space to maneuver around and not be getting into the perimeter of our property.
Okay.
When were the bins constructed?
2019, 2020 maybe?
And was the buffer yard requirement there when the bins were constructed?
So the requirements have always been that. He's also trying to establish a use with that permit for the new building. Originally, he moved in, it was a single-family home, and the use has never been officially changed to an office with storage yard. And so that's what he's trying to capture on this permit that he's applied for now for the, I guess it's an expansion or a new accessory structure in the back. And so it was never captured before, but it would have been if the use was approved at the time as a storage yard outdoor. Does that make sense?
There's a note on here about an existing fence where the driveway comes back into that lot. Does the style of that fence, is it the location of it or the style of it doesn't meet the intent of the code? Did we know?
I think Jeff's gonna pull it up on the screen for you to view. I believe it's just a picket fence. Or
It's a 6-foot chain link is what it is.
So it wouldn't meet the intent of the screening, the visible screening. That's what it sounds like, okay.
That fence was existing to the property. It's just a 3-board horse fence, I think, that's never been obstructed or torn down, but I don't know that those pictures
That's-
show the,
That's not the same fence, is it?
there you can see.
That one, yeah, okay. Yeah, so that doesn't meet the screening. There's your question. That was your question, how it's used.
Just remind me to answer your question, but, because I think this has been asked already, but what if this was pre-existing before you purchased the property? Anything?
The buildings beyond the trucks that you see kind of at the tree line, or not, well, towards the tree line, and the actual house itself.
House itself?
Yeah. The driveway location was there, but it was concrete before. We've changed it to permeable pavers. So that's pretty much it. It was just some barns, outbuildings. It was kind of a dilapidated property when we purchased it.
Those storage bins, were they there prior to?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thoughts, comments, motions? Anyone?
I'm in agreement with the fence. The fence on the south and the west, I don't know that it really does much. But number one seems self-imposed.
I'm having a hard time finding a hardship that you didn't create for yourself, that I would normally say under our provisions that we could just say yes to real quick. Not that I think what you've done is, I mean, I get it. I think it's fine. You're trying to improve a property and use it for your business, and I'm sympathetic to that, but I'm not certain where from our purview, where the hardship is on this one. Other than, what you've just done as you bought the property and built it out. And now we're trying to just make it fit into the mold when you should have worked the other way. The
Right.
mold is what it is, and you buy something and you build it to fit that. And you come on the front end to ask for variance to make something work if it's needed.
I mean, it's also, you've got an existing condition. I do wish there was some documented support from the neighbors, because the people who are most impacted by that aren't here in opposition. You look at what's shielding the landscape of this, and yes, there's future context, but buffering it from what appears to be a lot of more of kind of the same. You're gonna get more of a solid buffer here than.
Well, and it's an existing condition now, but it wasn't. It's been developed over time for the commercial use, which I understand that's how you want to use property. But to use it for a commercial use, there's things that we've got to abide by.
Yeah. No, I'm looking for intent, right? The buffer and what you're separating from, and, existing versus, all future, right? There's a lot there that, if it doesn't happen now, it's not gonna be required in the future.
Yeah. Anything kind of coming from the west side of that property where you have the flood plain, like that would be basis for variance requests that I think I would be able to get on board with. But from the north and the south and just how things are, it's all just being really driven by what was built, how you expanded over time. And unfortunately, now that you go to pull permit, that becomes a problem. Some of that becomes a problem. I'm going to make a motion to deny BZA 250079 just for the lack of a hardship.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. All right, you're vice chair, right? Okay, I need you to.
You need me to be vice chair?
I'm gonna recuse from the next item.
The next item is BZA 250080. Applicant Jay Patel. Is the applicant here?
That's me. It's okay if he speaks
Yeah. Oh, pardon me? Oh, as we only have 3 members, I do want to offer that if you'd like to postpone, you can until we've got a full 4 members. You'll need all 3 votes in affirmative to pass your motion.
Yeah, we'll go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The applicant is requesting 2 variances related to a proposed mixed-use multi-tenant development in a CR2 zoning district. The first request is to decrease the minimum required rear setback in a CR2 zoning district when abutting a residential district from 30 feet to 19 feet. The second request is to decrease the minimum required width of a Class B buffer yard from 20 feet to 3.8 feet. The proposed development abuts a county residentially zoned property to the northwest and western lot lines. Because of this, the development must meet the landscaping standards for a Class B buffer yard along the shared property lines. The development is proposing a drive-through lane that will be 3.8 feet from this shared property line, prompting a need for a variance to reduce the width of the required buffer yard. The proposed building will also require a variance to reduce the rear setback due to the property abutting the residential district to the west. The applicant should address if any alternative site layouts were explored that would reduce the need for a variance.
Please state your name, address, and explain your hardship.
Hi, my name is Matt Sprinkle, 631 Koch Drive, Maryville, Tennessee. The hardship to this property is the orientation of the lots, in particular, the front setback, the road location, the front setback kind of is an odd-shaped lot. There's also a steep slope on the south side of the property that's kind of restricting development as well. So I've been working on this with Mr. Patel on this site, trying to find a layout that works for the required tenant spaces on the site. He's going to be the owner-operator of these spaces. So these are the minimum that spaces that he can work with what he wants to put there. So, this, after several iterations, this is kind of what we came up with. It kind of meets most everything that we can. Which is why we're here asking for these variances. Because the shape of the building is, you'd rather have the front of the building is actually facing the north, which would be the side. So we're having a difficult time fitting that building in to the property.
Thank you. Open for discussion. Do we have any opposition? Sorry.
Do I need to state my name and address again? Okay. I'm Joyce Feld, and I live at 1540 Aguila Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919, and I'm here as president of Scenic Knoxville. So, while Scenic Knoxville believes that adjacent land uses with different zoning designations should be adequately buffered by both appropriate setbacks and landscape buffers, I'm going to focus my remarks on the second variance request, which is for a reduced landscape buffer. And again, it's brief, so I'm just going to, I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm just going to read you again what Article 12 says, gives us the reason why we want landscape buffers. So landscape screening reduces the impact of intense development upon adjacent land uses by providing visual separation, reducing the transmission of glare and air pollution, and limiting access. Screening also promotes the aesthetic appeal of a neighborhood and promotes higher property values. This applicant does not have any legal hardships as specified by the ordinance that justifies not complying with the buffer yard requirements of Article 12. While not a perfect rectangle, the shape of the property is not overly irregular. Strict application of the ordinance would not deprive the owner of reasonable use of the property. The applicant will not be prevented from using this property as the zoning ordinance intended. He will still be able to use the property as a commercial development. The retail space might be somewhat smaller than the applicant would like, but the ordinance also states that, quote, mere loss in value shall not justify a variance. There must be a deprivation of beneficial use of land. We think that it appears that 14,000 square feet of retail space is simply larger than this property can accommodate. A reduction in gross floor area will allow the applicant to adhere to the landscaping requirements of this ordinance and still have the desired commercial development. We ask that you deny this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're open for discussion. Have any other alternative layouts been looked at to eliminate these variances and put the buffer in?
Yeah, we started out, the preferred size was 17,000 square feet. So we've had to reduce it down from 17,000, what's currently shown. And we also did some things trying to switch the drive-through on the other side, but we had, that's not allowed because that's the front yard if you put the drive-through on the other side of the building. So this is what we came up with. We will, even though the buffer's reduced, there'll still be some landscape there. It's the current remnants of the pavement from the previous development is in the same location that the drive-through is now, so we're not changing that. So yeah, we looked at several different options.
I agree it's an irregularly shaped lot. I don't, the opposition's comments on that. It's a weird lot, but, I'm not certain that I get these variance requests based on the shape there. Why can't the building just get smaller?
Well, because the uses have already been determined what these tenants are going to be. And these are the smallest spaces that they can
Yeah.
operate their business the way they need to.
And is this the minimum amount of parking required?
Yes. I believe it is, yes.
Is the driveway required around the building?
It's not a requirement for the code, it's a requirement for the business that'll be operating there.
And I understand tenant demands, but I'm not certain, and Jay, if you want to speak, I mean, please feel
If
free.
that's okay, yeah.
Name and address, though.
Jay Patel, 2607 Graham Hill Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37932. So recently, since we were having these issues, that 2,000 square feet, it was supposed to be rental space, helped me out with mortgage and whatnot. So I cut that out altogether. We can't, that was trying to be an option from that original 17,000. So recently I spoke with Matt and the architect about it. I was like, we're gonna have to just take that out regardless of what happens. And if I don't get it, I can't build what I'm building there. And even the Giggle Town, which is indoor children's play area, I reduced that. Typically it's like, we like 10,000 square feet. And I was like, I guess we could do 7,000. So that middle thing that you guys saw, the unit, I'm taking that out already. So I am trying to do everything I can in terms of, it would be nice to have extra rental space, but I mean, I can't have it because of whatever the reasons are.
So you're cutting it from 14 down to 12 already?
Yes, sir. 17. So that 2,000 that you see, so the 14 that you see, the 2,000, whenever I kept on looking at it, that I'm going to dedicate that towards the Giggletown space. Yeah. So that 2,000 was like to rent out rental space for a tenant I had in mind, but
Right,
I won't be able to do that either. So I'm going to have to get rid of that as well, just to make it work.
Sure, but a smaller building could exist on this lot without these variance requests. I mean, I believe. What's driving these sizes is just the size of the tenants. Is that right?
Yeah, my proposed use, and I'll be owner occupied for both. And again, I think with the landscape buffer and all that, I don't know how it typically works, but we're still going to be doing everything required in terms of trees or whatever that's needed. It's just and behind that 5,000 square feet, I think there's like a 20-foot, what is it? A
Drainage easement.
drainage easement, so I don't think anything could like build there anyways.
Where's the drainage easement?
Right there, kind of where, you see where that arrow is?
Yeah, we're on the south
side?
plan, where it says JB. There's an easement right there that we've discovered from working on the Alta.
And compared to what it's now or what it's been, I mean, you guys are more than welcome to look at my plans in terms of the architect. It's going to be a very nice, decent looking property with, whatever landscaping we need. There's even currently right now, I mean, you could tell there's always like homeless living there and whatnot and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, it's going to be really improved, but I need this to happen in order to make the numbers work. Because it's upwards of, I don't know if I could discuss this, it's like over like 5.8 million. And I would need both the businesses to actually make money to pay for that.
Sure. I
you
think my
ready?
question is a little bit, what's that?
Oh, you have more question? Go
Well, I
ahead.
think my question, is like, if this lot was shaped differently, would this fit? Without,
Yeah, I mean, it might, but where I'm struggling is topographically, we've built retaining walls on every side, so we've maxed that out. It's just a lot of building for the size of lot that it is.
it's a weird shaped parcel though.
It is a weird shaped parcel.
And you got the road that's driving that, and functionally, I think it works. We're squeezing an awful lot into a small parcel, though. And generally, that's a design-driven thing, and we can't consider financials. Doesn't matter to us, even if we want it to matter, it doesn't matter.
Because I think, I mean, again, Matt could probably speak on it. I know we need retaining walls on both sides, Sam's Club side and the other side. You know, we literally put angles like diagonal all the way in the back. We did quite a few, I mean, like probably 5, 6, who knows how many. And I have them all if you guys need to see it or anything, but.
So the drainage easement is on what would be considered the rear, correct? Am I-
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that associated with the storm line that goes underneath the corner of the building?
I'm sorry.
I said, is it associated with the storm line that's run underneath the corner of the building, or?
Well, those lines tie into it, and then
Okay.
I believe there's a detention pond
Right behind
over
it.
there near the creek.
Yeah.
On the adjacent lot, the greenway is.
Engineering, do you have any problems with driveways, sidewalks, site distances?
Nothing that couldn't be handled in plans review, and nothing that would really affect
Okay.
this variance.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make a motion, I'm not sure how this is gonna go. I'm gonna make a motion to approve BZA 250080 based on the shape of the lot. It's a motion.
And I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Variance fails.
We do after that.
All right, thank you. BZA 250081 is our applicant with us. Very good. As he makes his way up, can we have staff comments?
Yes, the applicant is requesting one variance related to an existing but never permitted drug treatment clinic in an O zoning district. The request is to decrease the minimum required off-street parking spaces for a drug treatment clinic in an O zoning district from 21 spaces to 1 space. The previous tenant at this property was a medical clinic. The current tenant, Behavioral Health Group, moved into the building without a permit sometime between 2011 and 2014 based on Google Street View. In 2021, a permit was applied for to change the use from medical office to a drug treatment clinic. The plans review was never completed due to the use being unpermitted in an O zoning district, and the permit expired. The applicant then applied for a permit to install an accessible ramp on June 10th, 2025. Because the existing tenant was never legally permitted to occupy the building, a permit to change the use to a drug treatment clinic was initiated. The change of use also required the property to recalculate parking in accordance with Article 11.1.b. City engineering determined the existing parking at the front of the building was not safe or functional due to the need for a vehicle to back out into the right-of-way. It was also determined that the parking spaces to the west of the property were within the right-of-way and could not be included in the off-street parking calculations. The applicant has provided an updated parking layout plan based on the existing improvements and can only provide one accessible parking space within the property lines that meets engineering standards for safety and functionality. This results in the need for a variance to reduce the required parking from 21 spaces to 1 space. The applicant suggests that there is plenty of additional parking on the adjacent parcels that they also own. However, a shared parking agreement cannot be used due to the use not being permitted within the IMU zoning district.
Okay, thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, good evening. John Richard Patterson. My address is 4031 Aspen Grove Drive, Franklin, Tennessee.
And then can you describe, obviously we got the detailed, but if you, in your words, your request and hardship.
For sure, yes, and that was a good recap. This has been going on for a while now, trying to figure out how to accomplish this, but yes, the request for this committee tonight is to reduce the parking from the code required 21 down to 1 space for the parcel that is shown in yellow. If you don't mind scrolling to the next page, please. So if you can see in yellow, there's 16 existing spaces today that are utilized. Through discussions with engineering staff, it's been determined that the spaces that back out to Bernard on the north are a safety concern for obvious reasons. You're backing into the right-of-way. Marion Street is partially located within the right-of-way. And so just the shape of this parcel in general doesn't, with the existing building that's been in service with this use for 15 years or so, just does not allow for the amount of parking that's required by code. So to offset that, we've proposed a new layout, which is on the next page we'll go to in a second, that shows 1 ADA space at the front door. But this site can't, this use can't function with just 1 ADA stall. And so this exists today, but you can see the blue and the green parking are off-site parking because they're on separate parcels. They're also zoned industrial, and we are office, and so per code you can't have the shared parking access across the different zonings. And so the parking's there that we are using. So just to give you the numbers, there's 16 on-site spaces today, there's 73 off-site spaces. So when we reduce this down to 1 on-site, you'll still have 74 parking spaces serving this business. It's just they're technically off-site. Then additionally, the hardships. I also have a calculation in the packet that was submitted to you that says roughly on an average day with as many appointments as tenants or visitors they can have, it pretty much comes out to needing 49 at one time if they were had everybody visiting at the same time. So still overparked from their need. The other additional hardships, again, going back to the size of the parcel, the existing building that's been in operation for 15 plus years, 0.08 of the 0.25 acres is building, and then there's 10 feet of fall across it. So if you wanted to fit the 21 spaces on there, you can't do it. I don't even think you could. You might be able to do it if it was just a parking lot. Discussions on rezonings too. I believe if you were to zone them all the same so that you could do shared parking, office does not allow standalone parking lots, I believe. So that's the reason for our request, and ownership is here if you have any questions for them about functionality, but happy to address any questions you have.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition? Okay, perfect. We'll open up for board discussion.
I didn't realize you can't lease property across, like, why can't they just lease property to themselves? to park on.
So they just can't execute a shared parking agreement with the city because the use isn't allowed in the neighboring parcel. And that's one of the requirements of a shared parking agreement. And so they just can't do it to meet minimum parking requirements for the zoning ordinance requirements.
Gotcha. Have you thought about rezoning those other two parcels?
We have, but you can't have standalone parking in a parcel. So even if you rezone, that use is not allowed in office.
Could we combine parcels and then you're not,
One lot apart?
yeah.
You can't one lot with that which is green because it crosses an alley? Potentially with the blue?
And that would still get you the required parking that you need for that size of building?
We did not evaluate the blue.
It is an existing condition today, and it is, if you scroll up a little bit, I mean, the property lines is, with all the alleys and the right-of-ways, it seems like this was not done recently, and so it would cause much more impact to the development.
What was not done recently? Sorry.
Well, like if you look, there's still, alleys are on private property, parking's on right-of-way. It'll just cause I feel like if you have to take that through rezoning and plating, it'll cause a much bigger
Oh, one lotting, I mean,
impact.
It would
don't
clean it
see
up.
One lotting would clean you up. And the thing that my hesitancy on this is that this is a growing area. It's going to continue to grow for a long time. And if we give a variance for this one corner, there's not that the treatment center is going to do this. It's been there for a long time, and I recognize that. But if they move tomorrow, I believe this variance would stay on that property, and you could sell off the other two parcels, and that building could be there with one ADA space, I think. Am I interpreting this right?
My understanding.
Wouldn't you have to seek a change of use as well?
If there was a change of use, I think that would put it back to having to get another
Start it
variance
again,
for
yeah.
it, but potentially another. Now, the change of use, is that going to be only another treatment center, or could there be other uses? I forget the definition of change of use.
They could do a change of use to anything that's permitted in that zoning district. Parking would be reevaluated if it was a more intense use. That's how we've dealt with those in the past historically.
But potentially the one parking spot could still be transferred to another office type of use. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a treatment center.
Sure.
Okay. BZA variances are a little cheaper to come get, and we end up looking at some stuff where it's kind of like I hesitate to say yes to it when it can be cleaned up another way, even if it takes a little bit more, effort to clean it up that way.
That's in doing the math, I think combining them wouldn't meet the functional need of your letter, right? But it would meet the need per the code, which would be the 21.
21 spaces.
Yeah. The only thing so long as it doesn't trigger the rolling.
Who owns the
all
other
the other
corner
things.
there that's across the alley from the blue? Is that,
If you go up one more page, please. So that's the proposed condition. If you go up one more.
I'm just thinking through, even potentially closing an alley. You have to get your neighbor's approval to do it, but if you close the alley, it's split.
I will say correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all lease this property, right? You don't own it. Yes. So the current business leases all these together. So I mean, there's an ownership component of that too. It's just a note. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Parent company, the ownership isn't the same or related to the business?
They're leasing all these parcels together. I don't know if you have a time
Yeah,
on that
I mean, I
lease,
think
but-
that's, to me, that's a really important note because you have a tenant, and in my office, we see this a lot where the tenant runs across things that are tripping into something that's outside of, something that triggers something in the property, and it's a conundrum because I absolutely agree with you. My office is not far from here and my house too, but someday those lots will become buildings and maybe we'll have better public transportation in that area by then, but I just don't know. This, becomes a, part of the hardship for this group actually is that they don't have ownership and they can't obligate the owner to combine parcels and other things. I don't know what they do. And so they've made good faith effort to have adequate parking for who they are and what they do now. They don't have authority to combine them.
They don't, but the impetus for this is a renovation, is that what's going on?
It's for an ADA improvement exterior to the building, which brought back up the change of use that did not occur 15 plus years ago.
Has the tenant approached the landlord about one lotting?
We have not approached them specifically about the combining the two lots or trying to go through the rezoning to combine those two lots or the one across the alleyway, so.
Okay.
But it is the same entity that owns all three lots?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's technically 4 lots. I think green is 2 lots.
4 lots, yeah.
And sorry, what was your name and address for the
Oh,
record?
sorry. Joshua Wright, 5623 Heirloom Drive, Murfreesboro.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion?
I'd like to offer a postponement for a chance to talk to the landlord, maybe, before we make this decision, if my other board members are.
I'm open to that, as long as the
It's up to y'all.
applicant is open to that.
Yes, I would.
Well, they would
Move to one lot.
address the options of
And if the
replatting.
landlord approved it, then they would technically could pull their variance request.
Sorry, what was that last part?
If your landlord will work with you in one lot across to the blue, then you wouldn't need a variance request anymore. And I'm offering the postponement instead of forcing a vote right now. Unless the vote would help you talk with your landlord, then I could be talked into holding a vote. But I'm trying to open the door to talking with your landlord and seeing what the answer is
Understood.
before we vote.
Yeah, I think just historically and trying to think in our past experiences with this particular landlord, I think, because the intent here is to make the building more accessible for folks who are needing treatment, but, adding that wheelchair ramp onto that so we can get the space for that. So we do have some sense of urgency around that. So, I mean, if this hardship, would be something that you guys would consider, we are pretty eager to be able to move forward with these improvements. But if we absolutely have to, obviously, we will engage with the landlord around that.
Yes.
For clarity, it would be a 1 lot and a rezoning.
Yeah.
Which is probably a minimum 3 months.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that plays into your deliberation.
I'll say, I think again, I go back to this idea of, tenant and ownership, and I appreciate that for who they are and what they do, they've made arrangements to more than cover what they need, that this isn't gonna be, and I totally understand the future. I just think that this is a really interesting situation for a tenant because there's an extra layer of hardship of ownership and authority. So. Any more comments? No?
No.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve BZA 250082 based on existing conditions and the fact that this business has been in place for almost 2 decades and trying to tidy things up.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Will you do that with your mic on?
I said, what are the legal ramifications for the owner
To approve it?
of what we're changing? How is, if they decide they want to sell it later on?
So I think that goes back, and if I don't answer the question, we'll keep going on your question. I want to make sure it gets answered. But the question Daniel asked earlier about how does it transfer, is long future uses that are this intensity or less, the variance would stay with it. But if it were to change to something like a restaurant or something that would have a higher parking requirement, they would be sort of forced to come back and revisit the parking situation.
Okay, the current tenant and not the owner.
Well, it goes with the building.
So the owner would have to come back.
They would have to come back anyway.
But only if it was not another office use of equal or less intensity of use in the building. So if you had an office or, I don't know what the example would be, but an office use that was going to be more people, more intense use of the property, they would force them to come back here to get approval. But the same or similar use or less use in an office zoning would still, they would only have to be, they wouldn't have to have any parking. They would have one ADA space on that particular parcel. And so what we would be hoping for in that case is that there's still available parking next door to lease for a future owner.
Well, and I think what we're saying is that we're approving it with one space, period, not just one ADA space. It's going to be a standalone lot with one space, period, with no guarantee that there's parking available at any point in the future, because they don't have a parking or shared parking agreement with any of the adjacent properties, because they can't.
And that one space would have to be ADA because probably anyways, because the building would require ADA.
So, and I think what would happen then, right, is if the future use is something that's allowed in the IMU, then they can establish agreements. But if they were to sell this yellow parcel to anyone else, they're in a situation where the parking they have is non-compliant and it's being removed because of safety. So they don't have a choice of keeping or creating parking other than that one spot because there's not a way to safely reconfigure the existing parking. So if they were to come without any consideration of the blue or the green, to say, we don't have a way to provide parking, it's an existing condition, there's safety reasons for what's being removed, then, we would have asked the question, did you make efforts to come up with a parking agreement? And they would have said, well, we have an agreement, but it doesn't meet the conditions. We're just in a situation where all of those happen to be owned by the same landlord. And I think that's why I'm in the support of this, is we've dealt with this in a lot of buildings in this case. I appreciate
We've denied a lot of.
We've done both, yeah, absolutely.
It's been a mixed
Because
bag in
it's,
this neighborhood over
yeah.
the years. In terms of what's get approved.
But I don't think there's a negative implication to the owner of the building in this case. Maybe a positive implication to them, that the tenant's already done this for them.
I'm probably opposed to it because of we have the opportunity to encourage that owner to go and fix their parking issue just by rezoning and one lotting, which does take time, and I get that, but it would provide them with the parking they need long term.
Did that circle it? Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so the motion failed, so we need to turn it and vote again? Or it just fails? Okay, so the variance is not granted. Thank Thank you. All right. BZA 250083 is our applicant with us. Oh, very good, sorry. Hello.
I don't want you guys being here longer than you have to be.
Staff comments.
The applicant is requesting to appeal how the building coverage is being calculated on a lot with a proposed single-family dwelling. The building coverage calculations for the plans review included covered and screened porches that the applicant does not believe should be used based on the interpretation of the definition of building coverage. Building coverage is defined as that portion of the lot determined by building footprint, exclusive of eaves and other overhangs, that is or may be covered by buildings and accessory structure. The zoning administrator will be available during the meeting to discuss their interpretation of building coverage and how it is calculated during the plans review process.
Thank you. Will you state your name and address for the record?
Daniel Sanders, 714 Haynes Place. We live about two and a half blocks from this piece of property now. And I do want to clarify, in our application, we also requested in the alternative a couple of variances that would address this, and it was our intent to put the options before the board so that you have a couple of different ways you could deal with this. So I don't know if you want to scroll back up to the letter. I thought it was fairly clear in our application. The letter was attached to the application. If you'll just scroll up, that was the letter that was attached to our application. And we were 1, 2, 3 there, appeal, variance.
Okay, in the, so this was published as an appeal, yes?
Yes, it was. I'll take the blame for not having everything the way that it was put into this email.
You don't have to take the blame.
I'll-
But
I'll-
I'm just trying to understand. I want to take what we're not supposed to talk about off the table.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Do you want to proceed with an appeal today, or do you want to postpone and get everything on there?
I want everything on there.
Okay.
I think it's clear from what,
We missed it.
We worked with our neighborhood. It's clear that everyone that has an interest in this understands what's going on. Our neighborhood wrote a letter that says, point blank, we request that you approve these variances, and both of the variances.
We messed up. Do you want to postpone, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Can we talk about interpretation really quick? I'm a little confused about why we would,
He wanted to appeal an interpretation,
yes.
and if he did not get that appeal approved, he wanted variances.
Variances.
So is it worth hearing the appeal?
I'd kind of like to hear about the appeal of the interpretation.
Totally up to the applicant.
Okay.
So we can hear the appeal, and then you can decide if it needs to come back next month or not.
You got to come back well.
Yeah, so part of this is that once we, in conjunction with the building coverage issue, it was also determined that the detached garage was too close to that alley. We're within the setback, but there's some sort of drive aisle requirement that we have to be set back further from the alley. By our calculations, that pushed us over the impervious surface, so we'll have to have that.
You have to have it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's up to you. We can postpone, or we can hear the part that's been
I want to hear it
advertised.
all together.
Okay.
Before we move on, I think the reason we did this is if this appeal is denied and my determination is upheld, then all of those variances we couldn't hear them because they wouldn't be accurate. And they would have had to be adjusted in a more,
Advertised.
Accurate.
yeah, a more accurate way because it's a greater variance.
Well, no, I mean, the impervious surface includes the additional driveway setback. That's why we're over the impervious.
I'm talking about the building coverage.
Right, but the variance from the building coverage is your number that you calculated, 38. Our number, if you approve the interpretation, we're under the building coverage. But we've asked for a variance because he calculated the building coverage at 38.18, I think it was.
Okay, so you used our numbers in the letter?
Your number for the building coverage, but since we pushed the garage back, it's the number for the buildings and the walkways and the additional driveway that's required from the, because that initially, we were over the building coverage according to the code's calculations, but we weren't over the impervious surface. But when they required us to move the garage further from the alley, we went over the impervious surface because
But
there's
the
additional.
interpretation is regarding what specifically? It's just
The building
right?
coverage, the building
Okay.
coverage. And so,
And that's what I'm asking that question because, just Daniel, what I'm thinking in my head, just so you know, is that historically, the appealing the zoning administrator's opinion and their determination is not, it's been a hard road to hoe.
sure, and that's why I wanted to put the options there.
So I was thinking, right, and so the options might be good, but it may also clarify just to understand. I'm curious about understanding what it is about the interpretation specifically that is disagreed with the thought that we can make that determination and then maybe helps give some guidance about the variances, allows them to get specific about what those variances need to be, or maybe it doesn't matter.
If I understand, I mean, it doesn't matter at this point, right? So it wasn't advertised, unfortunately. So I'm actually going to strike everything I was about to say. It was advertised only as the appeal. So the only thing that we can talk about today is the appeal. So it's going to be up to you whether we can go ahead and hear that part, and then you can come back with the other two, give us time to advertise them. And yes, I think it sounds like you did the worst case scenario in your request. So if, depending on how that goes, you either keep them or you adjust them down. So it's a lesser variance request. But he's going to be back.
You're saying your opinion, does that affect the specificity of the variances that
Yes.
would be needed otherwise?
It would
I'm not
I think
it
he's
would only
saying-
affect the building coverage. We would still need a variance on the impervious surface. And I'm fine to go through that just briefly with you. If it's on the agenda, maybe you make a decision on that tonight, and we only come back for one of the things, or both of the things next time, but we're gonna need to come back one way or another.
Correct.
And,
It just may be a lesser request than what's on the paper.
Right.
And it wasn't
If-
advertised anyway.
If we uphold that his determination is correct, he's gonna need a variance for building coverage. They can't calculate and give him that variance without a determination, right? Like,
So two-part. Number one, I think what I understand is his numbers 2 and 3 were his worst case if the appeal was turned down. That those were the worst case. And then if it was in his favor, then he could ask for less.
okay.
But it doesn't matter because those weren't advertised anyway. So if you want to hear the appeal, we can do that. If you want to wait and do it all at once, we can do that too.
I don't think we're gonna be asking for anything less on the impervious surface because the building coverage, regardless of how you calculate that, we that's part of why we disagree with the interpretation because they're two separate numbers. You can fall somewhere in between them, and it's the decision is really what we're asking for is whether a porch should be included in the building coverage, and
So
I don't know how far you want me to get into that argument.
So not at all until you tell us, do you want to postpone or do you want us to hear it?
So procedurally, if we hear the appeal tonight, am I prejudiced in any way from having
No,
come
we've
back
just
next month?
taken one thing
Yeah.
off of it.
Okay, yeah. Let's just hear the appeal tonight.
Okay.
You guys
So
can tell us where we're going.
the
next.
only item on that letter is number 1, which is the appeal of the interpretation. So you can present.
Here, I'm already
your-
missing the Christmas show at the Second Presbyterian Church.
All right, so the faster you talk, the faster we'll debate.
Okay.
So I guess go ahead and you disagree with the interpretation. So
Yeah,
what is your interpretation that?
So our interpretation is that unenclosed porches should not be included in building coverage. And that is because the ordinances are, in our view, ambiguous about whether porches are uncovered. And I'll start with, we'll go back from recode happened in 21. In 19, you had a building coverage regulation that specifically said porches are included in the building coverage. When you went to recode, that language was taken out of the ordinance, and now what you have is a ordinance that says building coverage is determined by the building footprint. And there's a comma, and there's some other language in there that talks about accessory structures and buildings, but it says point blank that the building coverage is determined by building footprint. And in your ordinance, it says where there is a defined term, it has to be construed in accordance with the defined language in the definition. So we look at building footprint. Building is a defined term, and it says it's a structure that has enclosing walls for at least 50% of its perimeter. A dwelling is just that. I don't think you can have a dwelling that is unenclosed for any portion of its perimeter. So we have a dwelling, it's enclosed for 100% of its perimeter. Porches are also a defined term in the ordinance. Porches aren't defined as accessory structures. They're not defined as buildings. They're not defined as dwellings or anything. They are defined as architectural features. And so when you put all this together, we don't think that the building, I'll add to that, building coverage specifically does not include overhangs. And so in our view, what's the roof that's over the porch is an overhang, front and the back porch. These aren't enclosed porches. They're not enclosed by walls specifically. And so put all that together, we think that the porches shouldn't be included in building coverage. Now, when we first submitted our plan, it came back to us, hey, building coverage is anything under a roof. And so we got that back and we looked at it and we put this letter together and we submitted it to Peter. We got a response from the letter that said, oh, because it has a foundation under it, and that correspondence is in there. So we're getting conflicting interpretations even from code administration. So the law on this is where the ordinance is subject to more than one reasonable interpretation, then we get the benefit of that. And because porches were included in the 2019 code, they're not included in recode. Porches aren't defined as buildings or accessory structures. They're defined as architectural features. The overhang is not included. The eaves aren't included. And so in addition to that, if you don't include the porches and the building coverage, we were not over the impervious surface until you had to move the detached garage. And I'll say, and I'll just be real brief about this, this started back in June of 24 when we met with our historic liaison to the Historic Zoning Commission. This has been through and approved by Historic Zoning. We had a design that was a true two-story, and it, I think it met every regulation. We're within all the setbacks. The comment came back from the Historic Zoning liaison that the massing wasn't quite right for our neighborhood. So we met with some of the neighbors, and this was the design that resulted. Our neighborhood has approved this. They love the design. All the neighboring property owners that are adjacent to us love the design. I've corresponded with them all in writing about this particular appeal that we've made. And they're like, yeah, we don't oppose this. This is a great design. It's going to be a benefit to the neighborhood and yada, yada, yada. So just all that, we think that the ordinance is ambiguous. Like I say, we're still going to need to come back for a variance on the impervious surface, but you know, the building coverage thing, you know, it is what it is. I think we disagree. I don't have it in the record tonight, but I did get I don't know if I could email you something, but I did get an email from my engineer who said, yeah, I agree with this interpretation. It is ambiguous. And I can email you that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Can we, I guess, hear from you?
Sure. So by that logic, the picture on the screen right now shows, I believe it's a bedroom over top of the front porch. If that's not part of the building coverage, then I guess every beach house has no building coverage because it's a porch underneath. So,
Well, I mean, we don't have beach houses in Knox County, so I don't.
you know what I'm talking about, though. You've got this example. You've got living space that's elevated above, and I know we're really dissecting this, but the zoning code is what was the intent behind it, so that person on the street can look over and see massing, and we don't define footprint in the code.
Yeah.
But lots of
All right,
places do.
Hold on, please.
So, go ahead.
No, I mean, I just want to make sure, you've had your time to talk. I want to make sure they have their time to talk. Christina, you had something you wanted to say.
Absolutely. So I spoke with our law director today about this, and, you know, we do take the issue of ambiguity seriously because, you know, we don't try to use the zoning code to be overly, you know, punitive. But I do want to read the definition of building coverage in Article 2.4. The portion of the lot determined by building footprint, exclusive of eaves and other overhangs, that is or may be covered by buildings and accessory structures. We don't view the fact that the prior code had porches included there and it's not here as being, you know, completely different definitions. The intent was clear with this wording that the only things to be excluded were eaves and other overhangs. Here you have an entire room over a porch, and just because the room doesn't touch the dirt, in our opinion, does not relieve it from being included in part of the building coverage.
And also where the definition says and is or may be, it's very common for folks, might not be this scenario, but it's very common for folks to enclose their porches. So that's where I read the definition, I say, yeah, it isn't, but it may be, because the foundation's already there, the roof is already there, you just have to build the walls, infill. And so, again, try to just use a common sense approach, and now we're dissecting.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Wait, don't, please. I want to make, staff is done. You have very brief rebuttal, but it needs to be very brief, please.
yeah, I mean, if you wanted your ordinance to say that because a porch might be someday enclosed, then it should be building coverage. I mean, your ordinance needs to say that, right?
It does say that.
Okay, so wait, I'm going to stop. It's not to argue between you, because you obviously disagree. That's why you're here.
Right, so.
It's for you to state anything that's pertinent to the case that we need to
These-
hear.
These porches aren't enclosed, and if we were to enclose them, that would be a different conversation. We'd have to apply for a permit. That's not what you've got in front of you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to open to board discussion. I will say, for one really important piece to me is that there is no way to remove this porch without affecting the structure of the home. And that, to me, you know, it goes again to, part of that is occupied, but even still, you're not gonna, it's not an overhang. There's a structure, there's columns and beams that are holding up, that are part of the overall structure of that home. It's not an attachment, where we, you know, like you can flick off a lot of porches and things that I could see having a different conversation. This one, to me, it's very firmly attached to the home. And I have a hard time separating it from the structure of the home.
The zoning administrator's been, this is why I wanted to go ahead and have the conversation, is because the zoning administrator's been very consistent about this for a long time, and I don't think the argument's strong enough to overthrow the administrator's review personally. That would upend a lot of stuff from our standpoint. I'm open to considering variances on this parcel, and I think that's a conversation worth having, but that has to get published, and this wasn't published. So that's the, I agree with the interpretation that administrators in this case, but regardless of that, I don't think we've had this conversation before as a board. It's kind of an older one for me, and so there's just not enough there to overturn it.
Do we have a motion?
I'm going to make a motion to deny BZA 250082, and to be clear, I think I'm saying this correctly, to deny the appeal. Am I saying that right?
Correct. And I'll pull the zoning administrator.
Yes, please.
Last second.
Can we also clarify that we're gonna advertise and place the variances on
We
the next
can if
agenda?
it makes you feel good, but you've got
Okay.
the freedom to do it, so it's
Well,
not.
am I gonna need to reapply or what? I mean, I've already applied
I
once.
think that's a legit question.
We'll take it.
Pardon?
You're good to go. You're going to work with Mark. You're going to be on next month's.
Okay.
Do we have time to?
Thanks.
Do we have time to
Advertise?
advertise? Yes. Okay.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Last item on here is BZA 250083. And our applicant's making their way up, and staff comments.
The applicant is requesting two variances related to newly constructed but a never permitted driveway in an R1 zoning district. The first request is to increase the maximum allowed curb cut for a single-family dwelling with a lot width greater than 74 feet in an R1 zoning district from 32 feet to 43 feet. The second request is to increase the maximum allowed driveway width for a single-family dwelling with a lot width greater than 74 feet in an R1 zoning district from 25 feet to 27 feet. A zoning complaint was received for the property in reference to a new privacy fence and driveway improvements. A zoning examiner inspected the property and found no permits for either of the new site improvements, and a notice of violation was issued. The applicant has since altered the fence to come into compliance and has applied for a permit for the driveway. Engineering will be available to discuss any concerns they may have regarding the driveway dimensions or functionality of the improvements.
Thank you. Will you state your name and address?
Hi, my name is Joanne Nelson, 700 Van Osdale Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37909.
Thank you.
I did have Concrete Solutions come out and put in my driveway for me, and that was in August of last year. In regards to a discount, he said you can get a discount if you pay cash, which I did. I never knew of any, restrictions. So with that being said, the driveway was put in, and I was not privy to him not pulling a permit also. And the reason why I made the curb width wider was in regards to the West Hills Elementary School. There's a lot of traffic, and they have a lot of waiting line there just for safety getting in and out. And the ambulance and fire departments around there, and they, zoom by real fast. And I've seen many people pull into my driveway, and I'm like, that's okay by me, you know what I mean? But that's my hardship, and I don't know what else to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition? Doesn't look like it, okay. We'll open up to board discussion.
So this was done, and who you hired didn't pull permit, and you thought they did?
Yes.
Okay.
I never knew anything until somebody had made a complaint, I guess, That was my knowing.
Gotcha.
And I went back into my, receipts and everything. I came across all of the concrete that was used, and then what I paid for the concrete was the paid in cash to, the gentleman that did it. So, that's it.
So if I'm understanding this right, the driveway would need to taper down, so you're allowed to have a width at the mouth of it.
Yeah, the
And then
mouth of it, that the max of the curb is supposed to be, I guess, around 32 feet from what I'm knowing. And I believe it's 11 feet over that.
Okay.
And you're saying, now, is there a fire department or something close by here? Or is it
Yes,
just
it's around the corner if you're going towards the highway, I guess. It's
Okay.
right under that viaduct. The fire department is there. And it's really hard to get in and out of my, because the line of the school backup goes almost all the way to Manderley Way. And so then you only have like 1.5 of driveway, going past for the standing cars.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciate the consideration of that, but unfortunately, that's like then treating your driveway like a lane of traffic that's not a driveway at that point, so I think we should leave that out of consideration
Okay.
of a hardship
Absolutely.
personally.
Yep.
Engineering, do you have any comments on placement, size, orientation?
No, I mean, it's bigger than we'd normally allow, but I don't see any safety or functionality issues that size creates.
The remedy here would be removal of portion that's not,
To bring it into zoning compliance, that's what it would be.
And what are you trying to do that's causing the need for permit?
Well, I thought when I hired this company that they would be pulling a permit. Then I would have known all of what we're dealing with now. I would have never have done it. You know what I mean? I would have never have done it. So,
So you just found out and you came in and applied for a variance?
No,
well,
there's a complaint.
somebody had, talked to me about the, first it was my 2 she sheds. I got that done, permitted, and then I, put in a higher front fence line. And then, it was just all the learning process. I did not know. So then I, made it to where it works that way. And then I found out later that the last big headache for me is the concrete.
I can certainly appreciate the average person isn't generally aware of a lot of these processes. It's a lot of concrete.
It is. I'm going to make a motion to approve BZA 250083. However, just,
I will never do this again.
I
I'm
don't
calling
see a
everybody.
reason to, we have some discretion in these things, and I don't see a reason to force her to tear that out for what the violation is after the fact. With this being a very rare exception of something I would say yes to, I don't think it's so out of balance with, there's still green space there, there's still a front yard. I think it was done inadvertently.
Has there been a conversation with the contractor?
No, well, my thing was I wanted to go back and see if I had, the contract. I looked for the contract, there's nothing, and I, all I have is I wanted to get back to him, but I don't have any, saying, here, this is the contract, and you didn't tell me about any permits or anything else, or what I could have done to not have this problem. I did not call him. I just been, trying to do this right, and I can't really kind of say, here, I gave you cash for this. And he'd be like, okay, yeah, so.
So you still have his phone number?
I sure do. Yes, absolutely, I do. Mhm.
Okay, because he's aware of that just in our line of work.
Sure.
Of
He
what's
does a lot of
supposed-
work in Knoxville, absolutely,
Yeah, of what's
yes.
supposed to be done, and so there's different type of ramifications
Okay.
behind him doing that.
Mhm.
So you had mentioned 2 she sheds. Were those built with permits?
They weren't built. They were, had one that was already approved prior, and then I guess through the year, however you permit it again. But I did buy I bought a small house, so I don't have the overage of stuff. I want to get rid of stuff. So then I didn't have anywhere to put it in my house, so I bought a she shed that was bigger, and I didn't realize that you had to have it permitted. But that's all done and cleared. Paid my money, they have to come out and do the inspection on that, sir.
So the only thing she has not remedied at this point is the driveway, and it requires a variance to remedy it. Okay, so you made a motion.
I made a motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second that motion. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just for clarity, you don't feel like you have any recourse against your contractor, though?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't. And I don't like confrontation either. I really don't. But I should have known, and, this will never happen again. I'm gonna be dotting my i's and t's and whatever you gotta do, because this has been a hard on me.
I feel for you, but this is not in the character of anything in that area. And it was done completely without permits. And I get that you didn't know, but that doesn't, it still is not in compliance and doesn't mean the standards that ever would have passed a site plan review. And I have a serious problem with that.
All right, more discussion? Are we ready for a vote? Okay. So there was a motion and a second to approve. So we're voting on whether or not to go with that motion. Ready? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Aye. Okay, so that means that the motion did not pass. And then with that, the variance failed. And so you can appeal that to city council. You can,
Don't we have to make a motion to deny?
no.
Only if there's a tie.
Ah.
You do have a recourse with the contractor, because they're held to a different
Okay.
standard. And so you don't feel as if you don't.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's still pathways there, and the staff can help you with your appeals process if you choose to do that. And I'm gonna go ahead and, other business here, BZA meeting, next one will be in January of 2026, January 20th, 2026, at 4 PM here in the small assembly room. And with that, the meeting's adjourned.